Walt, that was a very interesting conversation. And before I let you go, I know on my way here, I heard Mark Zuckerberg being scolded in Washington, D.C. So it was a very interesting conversation. So I think there's so much of this edification, awareness across the board, right? And also like going back to the way we do things, the way we build product and services. But before I let you go, Juan, I think our audience may have questions, and we have time for one or two. So if you have a question, you could just let us know, and we'll bring the mic over to you. I want to make use of Juan's time here, and if you have something that's really like on top of your mind, please go ahead. Perfect.
So on the consumer side of it, I liked your example of Starbucks, cash versus crypto. But you still need partners in that, right? You're not going to do it alone because you don't have that last mile, per se, with the client into that. How are you going to increase the usage? Because I think if you get people using it in that kind of context, they get more comfortable with it, then the usage in the long term will actually grow. So how do you make that happen?
Well, you're absolutely right about the partnership thing. And probably the most obvious example of where we need partners is to cash in and cash out. In the world we live in today, particularly in the United States, I'll set aside some of the countries where you actually have real Bitcoin adoption as a currency. Most people are acquiring it to hold and save. You can't really go to Starbucks and accept Bitcoin, right? You have to kind of convert back into cash. And so the partner for that is our bank partners. And right now we have a very close relationship with a number of regional banks in the United States and increasingly national banks, some of them who have invested in us. And we're doing the same in Europe and throughout Asia. So that's that close relationship with existing financial services firms is critical to like the near-term success of the company. But if you take a step back from that and you think, okay, what's the long-term play here? We actually think, and I apologize in advance to the bankers in the audience, we can completely get rid of banks in this world. And we think that because all you actually need to transact in virtual currency and to essentially bank yourself is an internet connection. That's it. All of the rest of the transaction processing happens through the decentralized blockchain cloud. And then the question becomes, well, why would you do that? Why would you use it? And again, I really like the example of Venezuela because there are some parts of the world where right now today, crypto is the best alternative currency. It's better than anything else they've got. In addition to being better and more stable than what they have today, you have the ability to remit it globally at low or zero cost. And that's extremely exciting for people. So those two things are sort of breaking the ice on consumer adoption in all sorts of different parts of the world. In sort of the developed world, it's still not quite there on consumer, so you're exactly right. I think what you're going to see in the near term are internet plumbing style implementations of the blockchain that you may not notice on the surface, but are going to start to change your internet experience. I'll give you one example, and I'll stop talking. The one example that comes to mind with blockchain, what you can do that you can't do with Visa is you can do micropayments with very low cost. And so what that allows you to do, for example, is to have a website where you can monetize instead of by putting advertisements in front of people's faces or having a paywall and then accepting $20 payments once a month or having a large payment relationship with your advertiser. You can actually monetize each click with a fraction of a penny or a very small micro payment that is made by the viewer. And that can actually happen in the web browser behind the plumbing without you even really noticing it. And the way that could work is you would preload a Bitcoin or a fraction of a Bitcoin or a fraction of some other digital currency into your web browser. And then the publishers would basically just as a condition of clicking, you would effectively send them microtransactions. And so that becomes a better experience because there's no ads. It's faster. It can be safer depending. I mean, you don't have like the data phishing that necessarily has to happen. And so that's an example of a consumer technology that's not a hypothetical. That's a real life thing. Thousands of people are currently using that exact technology today that improves the web experience. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that in coming years.
Juan, actually, I think we do have one last question. So.
Sure.
Juan, if you were Zuckerberg, what would your blueprint for Libra be at a very high level?
For Libra. So Facebook has kind of created a lightning rod for something in our space, which are cryptocurrencies that are linked to some underpinning asset. We call those stable coins. And Libra has actually worked out great for us because it has taken an enormous amount of policy energy and bad vibes and attention, and Facebook has just sucked it all right into Facebook. And in the meantime, Coinbase has partnered with some other operators in the space to create something called USDC, and this is a long-winded answer to your question, but this is how we're in fact doing this. USDC is a crypto token that is backed 1-for-1 for $1. So you'll come to Coinbase, you'll purchase a USDC, you get this token. It can be transacted anywhere globally, anywhere with an internet connection. You could download it onto your phone. You could go across, but you can go anywhere you want with it. But it is backed with $1 1-for-1. So it has all of the upside of global internet crypto technology with none of the downside of the volatility. Coinbase thinks that if that can be done safely in a regulated way with backing in a financial institution that people trust, we think that can be a massively successful technology. So that's kind of the strategy. You're going to be hearing a lot more about USDC and Center, which is the organization we've created with one of our partners, Circle, to kind of operate this in coming months. There are going to be some really big operators joining that network. And so that's sort of the strategy, and we're super excited. That's one of the technologies that I'm most excited about.
Thank you so much, Juan. I agree. I think Facebook is sort of like taking everything in, but I think what has this really prompted, Libra, is this conversation about innovation. I think China announced where they're going to have their own little cryptocurrency. So I think irrespective of how the conversations unfold in DC, I think that need to have these conversations are so critical. So thank you so much for being here. Great conversation, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. And Juan, I think you will be around should
Sure,
someone.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.